Professor, how much caution should there be at this moment for Libya?
Definitely a lot of caution. We've had previous ceasefires, previous political agreements, and previous apparent national consensus, and then things fall apart. But I would say this is probably the strongest position Libya has been in at least 7 years. We have, for the first time, a parliament which never convened all the members, convening, debating for 3 days, and endorsing a national unity government. And the ceasefire has held for about half a year now. So I think the big question mark right now is the foreign powers. Will they respect this government, or will they just leave their mercenaries and troops on the ground waiting to see what happens, because they could play a role as spoilers?
Yeah, absolutely. The Prime Minister has made that point himself, saying he insists that foreign mercenaries leave the country. But what about domestic militias, especially Khalifa Haftar, the warlord who was waging a war to try to displace the UN-recognized government in Tripoli?
Well, I think the Eastern tribal elements that follow Haftar have largely bought into this agreement. He has a large group of Salafi militiamen who follow a Saudi sheikh. But the backbone of his troops are Russian and UAE-funded mercenaries. And those were on the front lines of the fighting in the recent siege of Tripoli, not Libyan tribal troops. So again, it's the foreigners who are the main core of his army that pose the greatest threat. And now the foreign militias were supposed to leave after 90 days after the end of October. They're still there. The Russians seem to have been digging in. They control the airport where all the delegates flew in for the latest voting. So in many ways, this overwhelming vote in the parliament and the general positivity among the Libyan the population about this government is a way to tell the foreigners, please get out. Now, the UN has sent in monitors, and of course, the Russians aren't budging. So that's the biggest question right now, whether the Libyans can force out the foreigners.
Economically, is Libya getting the support it needs in order to improve its standards of living? I mean, you'd imagine that if people don't see some sort of concrete results in their day-to-day life, they're quickly going to lose this spirit of well-being that they have, wishing this new government well, I should say.
Well, you're right. It was largely economic grievances which fueled the Libyan Arab Spring, just like all the Arab Spring countries, and then political results which didn't meet the economic grievances. And here we are once again, and there's allegations of corruption going on, even around this new government. There's a delay in vaccines getting in. There's general malaise in the economy and contraction. And now Libya, fortunately and unfortunately, has the black curse of oil hydrocarbon wealth. And all that's really been used for in the last couple of years was for the Eastern governments to borrow Russian dinars Russian-made Libyan dinars that were basically printed to support the Eastern economy. And the Western economy is driven largely by, let's call it, the informal sector and a war economy. So there are major economic restructurings and reforms that need to happen. But again, we've got that hydrocarbon wealth, and most of the fighting right now, internally and externally, is over the spoils. Who controls the hydrocarbon wealth, both domestically and internationally in terms of contracts?
Professor William Lawrence, always appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.